So I've never used any social media.
If you are eating like shit, if you're not taking care of your body, you are just not going to feel good.
I wasn't prepared to sacrifice that. I ended up running into financial trouble by about 2019.
Like you're segmented, like you have, like work is a completely separate thing than your life.
Felt like my life would fall into bits.
If you want to have something beautiful, then you also have to lose it at some point. Welcome to the Willpower Podcast. All right, Andy Holt. So tell me about your first business, your first intro into entrepreneurship. Successful or not, doesn't have to be a success.
Oh, right. Okay. So this is my tech business. So it's 12 years old now. It was 12 years old at the end of January. So it feels like an eternity. I've been running that. So I started that business pretty much, I started it 2 days after my son was born. So just a switch went off, and it was almost like when my son was born, I was really proud, and it was like, when the predator takes his helmet off and this sort of red light just goes zzz, like that, it just gets like a new vision. It was almost like I had a new vision, and I just went for it. I was primed and ready to start this business. So yeah, I started the business. I was in consulting, worked in corporate. I was getting a little bit fed up. I recognised that I needed to make the jump, and it was quite a scary moment. So I managed to land a big consultancy contract with a very big nuclear client going client side, which helped me because it meant I could get some immediate money. So although it was scary, I just started the business with the intent of creating software, but initially I needed to get some money in. So I got quite a decent consultancy contract to get some money in. And within about 2 weeks, all my worries went away because I got paid, and it was kind of fantastic. So very scary, but I made the jump. And then we built a bit of a team. We did a few projects in London for sort of, one of my things was I was really good at bespoke design, so like real custom one-offs. And I'd come from construction and architecture, sort of building design, construction management. And I was also in IT in terms of the information management for the industry. But I was very good at custom one-off design. So I was doing things like glass elevators, custom made, free hanging cantilevered glass bridges in rich people's houses and things like this in London. So I did a lot of projects, got some money together, hired a design team, and built up a bit of a slush fund. Things were good. And then during my experiences consulting for these clients, which was a bit more around information management and IT systems, I decided I was at a point, do I invest the money that I've made into property, or do I invest it into this software idea that I had? So if I think back now, that was in 2013 when I started the business. By 2016, I was at the point where I needed to make a decision on where to invest the money that I'd built up. And I was going to invest it in property, and then I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it and develop some software. And I got all this pushback. People were saying, what are you doing? Why, do you know you're going up against? I mean, some of our competitors are the biggest software companies, like even Oracle and companies like this. And people were saying, an Autodesk, and it's like, why are you going up against such humongous, big sort of blue chip American companies? I just had a unique idea, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'd always been a bit of a shed scientist, so I'd always wanted to invent things and create things. So I had my idea, and I had almost like behind the fence special knowledge and experience about what the industry really needs, because I was consulting for one of the UK's biggest nuclear organisations. So I basically made a massive pivot in the business. We exited the design world, and I had to let that team go, and I hired a new team, which was software development team. So we hired some software developers, software engineers, And I'd never really developed an enterprise IT software before. I knew a lot about the industry. I was working in the industry as a consultant. But like many entrepreneurs do, especially in the software world, people think, oh, I've got this idea, I'll just develop the software. And then, we'll just create the best product in the world. And this is what I did. I created the product. And you build this software and you spend all the money and you think, right, great, where are my customers? And then you think, shit. It's not about building a product. You think, shit, where are the customers? And it's like, oh no, I've got to learn how to sell it now. So the real work came. It's not anyone can build a software tool. Anyone can build a product. But having the skills, the business skills needed to turn it into a successful business is a whole different thing. So like learning sales and marketing, of which I was a good consultant, so I could go into a room. I was used to sort of standing on stage and speaking to hundreds of people about the industry. But learning how to sell a software product, I did not have a clue whatsoever. So I kind of found myself within, let's say 2017, we had a beta version of the software. And I found myself basically traveling up and down the country, rushing around in my car, racking up points on the license, like a busy fool, basically, trying to sell software licenses to companies out of complete scarcity. So one of the biggest things you realize when you start a new business is no one knows who you are. It could be the best piece of software in the world or the best product. But when you're coming at it from complete scarcity, like no one knows you in the industry, there's no trust. And this software is sold to it's enterprise software, so it's sold into big organizations. It was an absolute momentous task to get anyone to take you on board. And all I was looking for was early beta testers. So I was rushing around, always going down to London, trying to get meetings with clients and spending loads of time, effort and money on the road. And I did that for a few years. In 2018, I was doing a lot of consulting work for a big French organization, a huge nuclear consultancy in France. I developed a relationship with them, which was going well, agreed to give me some seed funding. So it gave me a little bit of money. We did some demo projects together, and so it gave us a bit of extra money, and they gave us a 3-year contract. They wanted to take some equity at the time, but I managed to get a fairly smart lawyer on it to turn it into a collaboration agreement. So I got away with taking the money without giving the equity, which was quite good. So that meant that we had a bit more of a cash injection, but we're still largely living on bootstrapping. I basically bootstrapped the whole business throughout those years. And then I remember speaking to business advisors about, should I take some investment? Because everyone's like, get a VC, a venture capitalist, or an angel investor or something like this. And I do believe in getting investment. But I remember at the time I watched, there was a great movie out there called Print the Legend. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's about the MakerBot, the 3D printing world. And the whole thing there was following 3 companies, one which took the big VC money and got a huge cash injection, but it destroyed them as a team. They all ended up, it went to the heads. They didn't have a good life, and you had a ridiculous amount of targets to hit. And it was government funded. I got an advisor to help me navigate this, whether to take VC money or whether to try and bootstrap it. When I was watching the movie, Print the Legend, what I realised was there was another company that refused to take the VC money and bootstrapped it. And whilst they didn't grow as quick, they had a happier life. The team stayed together, whereas the team that took the VC money, they had that many targets, it almost brought the team up.
Yeah.
And they ended up, all the founders fell out, and it was an horrendous atmosphere. And I've begun to figure out that if I took the VC money, we'll end up with a boss, basically. And I wanted complete control. So I thought if I could bootstrap it, I can retain control, because if you bring a VC on or an investor, all you end up with is another boss with horrendous targets, and it eats at your quality of life. And I was enjoying my life at the time, so I wasn't prepared to sacrifice that.
So you stuck with the bootstrap model and kept just growing organically.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. I wouldn't recommend the bootstrap model for everyone. But for me, I've got a special resilience, I think, that I can just push through. So I was extremely resilient at that time. But it did mean working very hard. So in the early days, I would do very long hours and things like this. And we took on a sales director with the money that we got, the extra money. And I had plenty of consulting money coming in. And I ended up running into financial trouble by about 2019 and hit a bit of a low point, to be honest, nearly lost the business. The sales director wasn't producing, costing us a lot of money, and was quickly running out of money. All the promises that you get from sales teams. I don't know if you've ever dealt with any salespeople. They're all full of shit, in my opinion.
Directly.
The only person that can sell the product is you, really. The team itself. You've got to be within the business and understand it. So yeah, I got let down there a little bit, and do you know what? I took my eye off the ball in a lot of places in my life, and even my health. I put on a lot of weight. I was traveling up and down the country in my car, getting speeding tickets and this, that and the other, trying to make meetings. And I was a bit of a horrible person at the time. I wasn't nice to be around because I was trying to hit I was under pressure to make some sales, but I didn't know how to sell. So I nearly lost the business, and it got to the point where in end of 2019, felt like my life was falling to bits, right? Everything fell apart. I had to fire everyone, so I ran out of money basically, so I had to sort of fire everyone from the business, let everyone go, and mothball it, reduce it down, and take quite a risky loan to keep it afloat, almost like a loan shark type high interest loan, just to make sure it could survive and pay everyone off. I had some shares, some investments. I'd sell all them, put them into the business, just to keep it going. My relationship fell apart at the time, which was quite tough on me as well. It was almost like when you're down, you get kicked in the nuts,
Yeah.
But I wasn't a nice person, so I kind of deserved all this, you know what I mean? But I do believe that this is the life of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur takes risks, and when it goes wrong, you've got to accept all the consequences and wrestle your way out of it, come what may, and that's what I had to do.
Yeah, you talk a lot on your Instagram and your YouTube about just different facets of life and how to build yourself up in different areas. And it sounds like a lot of those were falling apart at the time, like health, relationships, fitness, business. So how did you make that step into taking care of yourself in all these other ways when the business wasn't going well?
Yeah, so when that happened, I genuinely hit a real low point in my life. I did not feel good mentally. My mental health felt like shit. Self-esteem, I wasn't making all these things. The breakup, the not getting the sales, getting into debt. Everything was going wrong, and when you have a few areas in your life that are all going wrong at once, it kind of affects you inside, deep inside. It's like an attack on your identity. So when that happened, I spoke to Gary, our commercial director, and I just said, look, are you all right just managing things? I just need some time off. I just took a few months off, and all I did was, I think throughout the whole of 2020, which was also lockdown had hit by that point, we got to 2020, and I basically didn't really work that year. I just did one small consultancy project, really small project, and just spent the year just taking time off, self-care, getting my diet on point. And I had started to, so I'd always had a really good relationship with the gym, but when I started the software business, it just consumed all my time. So I stopped going to the gym just for a few years. And I spent the time on the road, traveling up and down, trying to make sales up and down the motorways. And you find yourself just having service station dinners and eating shit like, junk food and, grabbing what you can in the service stations. So I had to reverse all that. Lockdown was an absolute blessing for me because I didn't have to leave the house to go and see a client anymore. It all flipped to online video calls. I saved a bunch of time and money and everything, but more importantly, because I was at home, I could start to attend to my diet. So the turnaround for this was first looking at my health and fitness, and I do believe that health and fitness, it's almost like the catalyst for all self-improvement. I think when you're in the gutter, when you're at the bottom, the first place to look is your health and fitness. I always think for me, talk about these categories, these areas, and I do have them on, in the journal, in my model, the sort of 7 areas of life. A couple of really important ones are your health and fitness and your mindset, right? So to get your mind right, I don't believe you can get your mind right if your health isn't right. If you've got brain fog, it's like putting bad fuel in a car, it's not going to perform. So if you're putting bad fuel into yourself, which I was doing at the time, no wonder I wasn't thinking straight and my mind wasn't right. My mental health was suffering. So that's where I made the change. So in 2020, I basically didn't work. I just read every book I could get my hands on, started to improve my diet. I was already working out and I'd lost sort of loads of weight at the time. I'd spent my whole life really in the gym, and then I had this period where I just completely let myself go. So I just quickly, throughout 2020, reversed all that, started training, eating really well. And then I found a coach, a business coach, to help me restructure the way I approach business and life. And so we started to go through almost like working results focused, using a results-based system to achieve any result that you want, all the goals. So I, created some life goals. Where do I want to be in the next sort of 5 to 10 years? And we started to use this system, and I started using Tony Robbins RPM system. And it was, the way I was using it was a little bit different to how it was designed, but it was so effective. Within 2 years, I'd gone from being absolutely in debt to completely the opposite. I made a full turnaround with the business. And not only was it a full turnaround, it went from being in debt to, say, earning 4 times the money that it used to make for a third of the effort. You know what I mean? So I'd really hit the nail on the head. And I do have to thank Scott, the guy who coached me. He's quite a successful author now. He's absolutely brilliant. I've got a lot to thank him for, because the techniques and things that he taught me on how to be more productive and how to be results focused, rather than just looking at a big long to-do list and trying to do everything. He taught me to focus on what are the top 3 things that you need to do today, right, and just do them 3 things. And that alone was life-changing, basically. So within a couple of years, we started to win contracts, and but a lot of it was down to an identity problem that I had with myself. I basically had this, even though I almost had a bit of imposter syndrome with it. Even though I knew I was the best consultant in the industry at the time, I knew my stuff. I knew the industry. I had imposter syndrome with the software business. I'd never done that before. And I didn't believe that I deserved the big contracts, the big software contracts. And that's what we worked on, and it was very, very successful.
Yeah, so it sounds like the business coaching, and then all of this is downstream from you making the changes in your life. Outside of the business, you had to step away just to figure out what was going on and take a step back. There's an interesting, I think it's a quote that someone had about how not taking a pause in life is not stopping for gas and being oh, I'm too busy to stop for gas. I got places to go. And it's if you don't stop for gas, you're not going to be able to go anywhere. And I see a lot of parallels as it comes to areas like health and fitness and other things. Like I definitely agree with you that health and fitness is like almost a baseline. Like you need that. If you are eating like shit, if you're not taking care of your body, you are just not going to feel good, and you're not going to want to do anything. You're not like, you can maybe grit through some hard work, but you're going to feel like shit, and it's not going to last. It's not going to, carry on. One other funny thing I took from you starting your business like 2 days after your son was born. Do you know who Amanda Nunes is?
Yeah.
She's a UFC champion fighter. She just retired like last year. Yeah. And she had a baby like a couple years ago. She didn't have a baby. I think her wife had their baby. And there was a lot of talk about like, oh, is she going to change now? Is she going to be softer? And then the next fight she comes out and like destroys the other girl. And then afterward is like, I'm the lioness with the cub now. Like like she's a beast now. She's got something to protect. So I thought that was interesting to hear that you you had your son and then you were like, fuck yeah, let's go. Time to start a business.
Yeah, I felt that it was almost like an obligation. It was like, hang on a minute, this ain't just me anymore. I've got people that are depending on this, and it's something that I hold. Think about my own identity. A large part of it is what I call a multi-generational family. So I have this kind of like view that you can, if you want a multi-generational family that's successful, it's almost through influence. So you need to be the best person that you can be, so the next generation can carry on and follow in your footsteps. Now you can't force them. You see some parents that say to the kids, I was a doctor, so you've got to be a doctor, and they try and push the kids, and then the kids end up like rebelling and going being a YouTuber or something, or going doing something completely separate, right, to what the parents really want them to do. Or they just be like, someone that I know, they just went, oh, sod this, I'm just going to go and surf, be a surfer, rather than be, the doctor. Uh-huh. So I think you've got to watch it. But yeah, a part of my identity is this multi-generational family thing. And I think it'll take somewhere between 4 or 5 generations to correct. Because like my upbringing wasn't the best, right? So, when I grew up, I was just like a tiger. I just grew up trying to fend for myself. And this is where the drive comes from. It comes from having nothing as a child to realizing that I've got to do this on my own. And yeah, that's great. But then how do you hand that down to the next generation with influence? So yeah, but there's definitely that thing there that you feel like you've got an obligation. And I think it's like the health and fitness thing. I think you owe it to yourself, for your family and those closest to you, to be as good as you possibly can be. And for those years where I was like not doing that, obviously that was before my son, and well, actually it wasn't before my son, actually. It was in them years when he was young. So in those early years, I was not being the best that I could be at that point, you know what I mean? And I kind of think about that and think, yeah, I should have been on it straight away. But I was very distracted with this. I wasn't thinking holistically. I was just solely focused on, can I get this business off the ground? You know what, Will, in the back of my mind, I knew I was slipping in certain areas, like the home life, my relationship, things like this, little nagging things that I had little knowledge gaps here and there, and I was like, right, that is slipping, that I could feel it. And all I was thinking was, just a bit longer on this software, just a bit longer, I'll deal with that soon. And anyway, I kept pushing, thinking, just a bit longer, I just need to get this sale, and it never comes. And when you realise, when you take a step back and you realise that you can't just focus in one area. Your personal development is holistic, right? You can't say, you know what, I'm going to just become absolutely brilliant at mindset, but just eat shit and pizzas and crap. You cannot have opposing goals. You're a whole being, aren't you? It's very holistic. So stepping back and approaching it holistically. And this is what I did. This is with the stuff that I learned with Scott. And this is what I'll talk about on my channel and in the journal. There's one approach that will solve everything. Yeah, there's one way to achieve all your goals, right? And that is just being results focused. It is stepping back. And it's not, because I used to be that person that's like, I don't have time. I've got to get up in the morning. I'd be waking up, just getting out of bed, quick shower, out the door, straight to work, not even thinking, not eating correctly. Instead of getting up a bit earlier, having time to journal, preparing a really good healthy breakfast, and then starting work when I'm ready with plenty of time. Having that, I really believe in that reflection time in the morning. It's it's sacred to me, and it always reminds me. Jim Rohn, one of his best lines is work harder on yourself than you do on your business, or work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I really believe on that. So good. That. This is why every morning I sit in my garden and I do my journal and my morning routine, review my goals, do some reading, take that time, circadian rhythm, that morning routine before anything, before I start work. And you might think, am I wasting my time? I should be working even more hours. I know you've got these people that, no, I just work every hour. I'm more productive when I work like that. When I take that time to myself, make sure I journal, make sure I read, make sure I look after myself, maybe a little bit of a meditation. I also train some mornings very early before I start all that. Yeah. And I think that time working on yourself is something that you should definitely value.
Yeah, I've found that the farther I can push back the moment where I first check my phone or my email is like the better. The better the morning is, the better the day is. Because I'll have days where I check my phone like it's like within the first like 10 minutes, and then I get pulled into something, or I see an email and I'm like, oh fuck, I should probably do this thing really quick. And it just like, it's like you said, like I no longer have the choice of like, what do I want to do today? What's the most like focused and results driven thing I can do? And all of a sudden I'm just following along with like what's going on in my inbox. So I definitely agree that pushing back that time and giving yourself some time and stillness to reflect, to really think about like, what is this day for me? What is this day? What can I do with this day? And what do I want to do with this day?
Have you read Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week?
Yes, of course.
That book, I read it, it was more than 15 years ago when I read it. I think that was the first book that really changed my direction. Mm-hmm. And the biggest lesson I got out of that was, he calls it the low information diet. I don't know if you're familiar with that bit out of the book. And he said, batch emails. And this is a good test. So it's like checking your phone. So when he wrote 4-Hour Work Week, the smartphones weren't around. So it was like batch emails, and don't do emails until 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And he said, basically, when you start working in the morning, if you open your emails straight away, you'll just get tied down with answering emails. And he said, if you leave them until 1 p.m. in the afternoon, usually half of them deal with themselves because there's lots of people copied in. Someone, by the time you get to it, it's dealt with. And the other point is sandwiching them all into, say, a 1-hour slot is better than if you're on your phone all the time or checking emails, it can consume 20 minutes out of every hour. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you wake up and the first thing you do on your phone and you're responding to messages and then you're checking it every hour, it just eats time out of that hour. So you need to sort of batch it for later. And I agree, if you have a morning routine, that's your time, you know what I mean? I get people who work with me, trying to get in touch with me and will you do this, will you do that? And they know, no, this is my time. I'm not going to start. I don't have meetings before 10 a.m. or anything like that. And it's like, until that point, I am not answering any emails, phone calls, nothing.
Have you read Cal Newport, any of his books?
I've got Deep Work.
Okay.
I've only skimmed it though. I've not done it properly. I've got Deep Work, yeah.
You'll like that one. He talks about this effect of like having, things ping you, like emails and stuff, which is like he calls it context switching. And basically it's exactly what you're saying. Like if you batch everything into one hour, you're going to be much more effective than if you have it like constantly breaking up your day, because every time you switch to a new email, You have to switch over your entire brain context. Like you were just working on something. You were fully focused on that. Now you have to switch over to this like email that just popped up, and that takes you out of it completely. And it takes a lot of time to actually get you back into the context. So there's a lot of like cost associated with just switching topics too quickly or switching what you're focused on.
Yeah, that Cal Newport's technique. So I've listened to him a lot on podcasts and things. I've got his deep workbook. I need to study it properly, but I have covered that with a lot of other sort of sources. So Tony Robbins RPM, sort of similar, and it's kind of how I work. So what I understand Cal Newport to talk about is deep work are in these focus blocks of time.
Yep.
So this is how I work. So if I approach a day, I do my journal in the morning, and I just set myself, what 3 things am I going to do today? And each one of them things is focused around one of the goals or results that I want within that period. So I'm not responding to emails. I'm not doing a big long list of things, whatever people want me to do on email. I'm sort of living with a bit of intent. So my 3 things, I will spend anywhere from sort of 20 minutes to an hour, maybe 90 minutes max on each task. And I'll do them quite intense. I'll work quite intense, so 1 hour on one, and I'll just ignore everything else. Phone's going, forget it. Just literally it's like the deep work. So I'll really get super focused and work really intensely for 1 hour. Then I'll have a little break, and then I'll go and do another one. Then I'll have a little break, then I'll do another one. And I can do all them 3 things usually in the morning before midday. And then the rest of the day is mine. You can then deal with all the other rubbish that you get, all the emails and messages. And so it's like Tim Ferriss's low information diet, and batch emails and messages till the afternoon. The morning should be like what Cal Newport says, deep work. Your 3 things of the day, because you can only focus. I don't know how long you can focus for. I can do an hour, me. After that, if I'm really into it, I can do an hour, and then you need a break. Sometimes it's only 20 minutes you focus, but you are right. If the phone's going, if you're answering it, if you're looking at emails, I think he calls it, it's like shallow work. You're not really doing it.
Yeah.
But I would rather carry a day like that where I'm really super focused for 3 focus blocks.
Yep.
And then you're pretty much done then. It's a lot of energy. So if you think about the average working day, 8-10 hours, there's only about 2 productive hours in that whole day. So like, why not just do the 2 hours and forget everything else?
Yeah.
Like, do you need all the meetings and making cups of tea and chit chat and small talk? Cut all that out and just do the 2 focused hours of work.
Yeah.
And you'll achieve more.
He says that. He says that for most people, the daily limit caps at 4 hours, like 4 hours of actually being focused. So 4 of those blocks, or if you have 3 blocks and some of them run over an hour, like that's the limit for almost everybody. And even for most people, they have to like build up to that, because like a lot of people, like if you tell them to focus for an hour, like that's a hard thing to do. So there's a limit, and I've really taken a lot from that, because like you said, I try to just make sure that when I'm working, I'm working. And when I'm not working, then I'm just like, enjoying myself or doing something more intentional, rather than, okay, I'm working on one screen here, but I got like something else going on my other screen, and I got Instagram open or YouTube or whatever. It's like just being more intentional with when I'm working, I'm working.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, so if you're working, if you're saying, right, I'm going to work 8 or 10 hours or a full day, how much of that time is productive, really? And Cal Newport's right on that. 4 hours is a limit. I think he says you could do up to an hour and a half on your deep work slots. Yes, you can. If you're really enthusiastic about that piece of work and you're really into it, you could probably stretch to an hour and a half. But in my experience, 1 hour is plenty. And you'd be amazed if you just work like that every day, which is what I do. I now work 12 hours a week, 15 hours a week. And I achieve far more than I ever have. I used to work 80 hours a week, you know what I mean? I was getting nowhere. I was just a busy fool, rushing around up and down the country, spending ages on doing, like, I was just so unproductive. All I do now is literally, I work a couple of hours, 3 hours a day, really intensely in them 3 blocks. And that's it. I don't try and do any more either. Because once you've done that piece of work, the pressure is off. If you work like that in the morning and you achieve all you need, your 3 things for the day, and then the afternoon you can just relax. Even if you have a job, like a full-time job, and you have to work in an office and you have to placate your boss and pretend to be busy, still do that morning focused time and then spend the afternoon just looking busy, you know what I mean? And you'll achieve far more than you ever have.
Yeah, you will.
I mean, what I do, I literally get that done. So this is a great thing. I read a good book by a guy called Rob Moore. So in the UK, he's one of these property investment gurus, and he's got a book called Life Leverage. It's quite good. So it's very UK focused. But Rob in there talks about integrating your work into your life. And in terms of my lifestyle, I do a lot of travel, and I can do it because every day, it doesn't matter where I am, I can get up early and do 2 or 3 hours like that, and then the day's mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I only need to do a little bit of work each day because I'm working with intent. I don't need to I don't believe that you need to work 10 hours. I think if you try and work 10 hours, you're not productive. I think you'd be better off doing those 3 focused blocks of time each day consistently, every day, even on the days when you're not working, because you can always wake up early, do that, and then you got the day to yourself. And this is how you win. What Rob's talking about is integrating your work into your life. So there is no difference. And I did a video on this concept, work-life balance, you know what I mean? Everyone, who talks about work-life balance?
Who talks about it?
Yeah.
For me, I've noticed a lot of like employees, W-2 employees. My company definitely talks about it.
People that hate the jobs.
Yep.
People that love the work and doing what they want, and they're living the life and working towards the goals, and they integrate the work into the lifestyle, so the work is integrated into the rest of their life, do not talk about work-life balance. You never hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that. It's really powerful. So like, just working, I can do that. I could be anywhere.
Right. Because you don't,
now.
It's almost like you're segmented. Like work is a completely separate thing than your life. And what you're saying is it can just be a part. It can just be integrated. You don't need to balance the two. Rather, you are just the same person at work that you are the rest of your life.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, if you think about it, because I don't see a work project any different to a health project, to a fitness project, to a lifestyle project. They're all projects to me. And, I use one system, one goal achievement system to achieve any goal. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, whether I'm working on my fitness, whether I'm working on a website, whether I'm working on this business, whether I'm working on a trip, planning a trip. It's the same thing. So integrating it into your life, it's almost like every day is the same. I don't have work days and non-work days. They're just all the same, really. So even at the weekends, I do 3 things. They might not be as heavy, might not be as work related, but I still do 3 things every day.
Uh-huh. Let's talk about relationships. So on a personal note, I'm actually going through a breakup right now this past weekend. So it's, tough time emotionally, but I'm curious for you what that was like. You talked about your relationship falling apart in 2019, I believe, if I got the timetable right.
Yeah.
Do you mind telling more about that?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I guess it was just a tough time for me because at the time, this was like, I'm a traditionalist, So my mum died when I was 6 years old. And so I kind of grew up like that with my brothers and my dad, and it was all good, but we missed that kind of, that family unit thing. So I had this kind of, how can I explain it? Let's call it an abandonment wound, right? And yeah, so when I created my own family, it was like, that was my project, you know what I mean? It was like, almost like you start trying to live your own childhood, I guess, through the lives of others. And so when that got brought down, it wasn't really about the woman. It was about that unit, you know what I mean? What it meant to me in terms of that vision, and, you know, what that meant to me in terms of my own childhood. So it kind of attacked me a bit, and I felt terrible, to be honest. On reflection though, it's kind of, it was one of them great things that happened. As much as I wish it didn't happen, I was not the best person to be around at that time. Like I said, I was all over the place. I was trying to create this software business, bootstrapping it, working every hour that I could. I used to work crazy hours, just focused on all the wrong things, didn't really have a plan. And I wasn't the best person to be around, so I kind of deserved it, you know what I mean? I think first thing with breakups is you've got to take personal responsibility whenever it happens. There's always some reason why, even if the reason is you put up with some shit.
Right.
Even you putting up with some shit is still a reason. It's something you have to take personal responsibility for. So that kind of hit me, and, you know, I took a bit of time off, and to be honest, it's been in the end it becomes a blessing. I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your own breakup, but, you know, as long as you work on yourself, I'm sure you'll come out bigger, faster, stronger, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, there's an interesting paradox, which is like the knowing that this was the right decision, and knowing that I'll, you know, come out of it better, but at the same time going through the sadness and the grief of losing someone so important. So
yes, like that particular breakup for me hardened me like you wouldn't believe, though, you know what I mean? It's like these days, you know, if I date a girl and stop seeing her, I've almost gone like really cold-hearted. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I am actually trying to get more emotional, you know what I mean? I can be quite terrible, but you know, all I can say is I hope it works out for you, you know. Breakups are a good lesson. I think the breakups make better men, I think. Especially when the man's hurt. I think you come out better as a result. I mean, it might not feel like it right now, but
yeah, I agree.
Was it serious for you, or?
The relationship was serious. Yeah, we were together for
right.
about a
Okay.
year. There were, like, you know, the thought was always looming. I'm only 24, so I'm still pretty young, but there was always the thought looming in the background of, like, is this the person, you know, that I want to spend my life with? So there's definitely,
it's a kick in the teeth. Especially so if it's been a year, and it's a kick in the teeth, and it's almost like, because you wrap your whole identity around someone, you know what I mean? And when it falls apart, I think it just creates like a huge void in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how it is. So, but you become used to it. I remember when I was in my 20s, I always thought to myself, I just had this thing, I'll never be serious with anyone in my 20s. And that was my mindset at the time, and luckily that's how it ended up. So I had loads of breakups in my 20s, to be honest. But yeah,
that's funny. I kind of had a similar thing before this relationship. I thought I was not going to go into anything serious, but it's not what life had for me.
I think it's nice when it works. There are some relationships, like a friend of mine, his wife, he's started dating her when I was dating her friend when we was 18, 19. So he met her when we was like 19 and was dating these girls. Like I had one and he had a friend. He's still with her. He's married to her, 2 kids, everything. Wow. So it's really worked out in some cases, but sometimes it's just very rare. You know, you need a level of maturity. If you think about it as a man, I don't think you mature really until you're sort of mid to late 30s, really. There's so much to learn. I mean, thankfully now you're in a world where we've got all this knowledge to our hands on the internet. None of that were around when I was in my 20s. you know, you've got all this stuff now, and obviously you're in touch with it, and you've got a lot of material to listen to and learn. It might give you a heads up to approach this differently, you know, because breakups are tough, but they're just part of life, you know.
Yeah, they're
part of becoming a man, I guess, being a man. Part of the male experience, well, part, not just male, part of the human experience.
Yeah, it's just like another type of loss. Like if you want to have something beautiful, then you also have to lose it at some point. That's just how, that's how things work. And there's a lot to learn from going through that.
There is. One thing on relationships, I always think you should practice, if you can, loving without attachment. I don't know if you've ever tried to study that from a mindfulness perspective.
Yep.
Trying not to get attached. It's like loving freely, you know. I think you can do that. It's incredibly difficult to do. Just to allow the other person the space and time to sort of come and go as they please. I do believe you can only do that if your values are correct and your boundaries are correct. You know, you don't want someone walking all over you and taking the piss. You know, I don't know whether you call it non-neediness, but you know, loving without attachment is a really good practice.
Yeah.
You know, once you've had your heart trampled on, you think, God, you know, it's an experience. I don't want that happening again.
Yeah. And there's definitely levels to like there's extreme attachment where there's like codependency. And then there's also the other end, which is what you're talking about, like the complete just detachment. And so even if you aren't like able to strive for that ideal, there's a lot that you can take from just trying to be less attached and still remaining an independent person and loving someone fully just for them and not for like what they mean to you. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I think we all kind of, life takes us down that path. We're just like herd mentality. I think until someone really figures out the fact that they have these choices and this kind of power to make better decisions, people just settle for the nearest person that's in their life, you know, this person that happens to be around, and looking around, all the friends are getting married and having kids. So people just sort of, it's like herd mentality. You just follow the pack, and then, you know, you get a few years in, you've been married, kids, and then next minute you're divorced, and you're like, what the hell? You think, why did I do that? Why did I learn this before I got into that? But, you know, I always think that I did another video on like the things that school doesn't teach us. It teaches everything, doesn't it? Maths, English, how to be, all the practical skills for the economy and make us good little slaves. How to be brilliant in our jobs in the corporate world. But what it doesn't teach us is health, how to look after ourselves, relationships, and how to manage money. Them three things are what we ought to learn.
We don't learn any of that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about books, because you mentioned, I actually was looking at your reading list before this, and I actually ordered 2 of them. So the 4-Hour Body, which is funny because you just mentioned Tim Ferriss, because I've read the 4-Hour Work Week, but I never read the 4-Hour Body. So I'm interested in that. And then the other was Oversubscribed.
Ah, right. Okay. What made you choose them two?
So Oversubscribed, I just like this. I'm going into a few business things right now, and they're still in the early phases of development, not really. And so like you mentioned, everything is marketing, everything is sales. It's like you can make an amazing thing, but if no one knows about it, no one's going to buy it. So that stuck out to me because of that. I'm just interested in different ways of thinking about getting my stuff out there. And then the 4-Hour Body was just, I had heard other people talk about it, and Tim Ferriss is pretty awesome. So
Tim Ferriss is like my idol, really. He's I love anything that comes out of his mouth, or anything he writes. Yeah, so the 4-Hour Body is a really good book, actually. So in that sort of phase where I'd let my health go, I'd studied, I've done a lot of videos on it. So what I did was immediately started intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting itself, recently, the intermittent fasting does not burn fat. What it does is it's a tool to stop you eating so much, so that the idea is, what's burning fat is you're eating fewer calories, right? That's what's burning fat. You can still do intermittent fasting and consume 4,000 calories in a 2-hour window, therefore cancelling out the fast, right? So it's the fact that you're eating fewer calories. The intermittent fasting means you've got less opportunity to eat. But I did that, and what it did for me was stop fridge raiding and stop, going in the fridge at night and eating shite. So what I ended up doing is, from that, I ended up getting into sort of full-on keto. So like low carb, proper keto. And then when I read 4 Hour Work Week years ago, and then when I read 4 Hour Body, which was after I'd done keto, so I learned keto from people like Thomas DeLauer. I don't know if you know him, he's one of the big influencers. I think one of his books is on there. It's the Mediterranean Diet Cookbook. It's brilliant. So it's like a cookbook. It's not, there is some theory in it. But the Tim Ferriss 4 Hour Body is what he calls slow carb. So he still allows some carb, and it teaches about carb cycling. So this is more my current diet. I'm permanent low carb, and I would say go low carb because one of the best benefits of going low carb, if you can perform, I perform quite well on ketones for energy. When you get into lowering the carbs, it's about killing those cravings, which is like a discipline thing. Now in 4 Hour Body, Tim Ferriss talks about having these sort of cheat meal days and things like this, like you maybe at a weekend you have one weekend where you have a refeed day. So this is my diet is more aligned to the 4 Hour Body now, and there's some good stuff in there. I think another one that he talks about is he covers overtraining. So as you get bigger, there's a rest recovery, like your recovery period. And as you build more muscle, you have to train less. So that's a good concept. I mean, not overtraining is fundamental. We could talk about training and how to structure a training split to get the most out of it. So that's what I would say about 4 Hour Body. It's a really good book, actually. It's probably more aligned to my diet today. I know he's done the 4 Hour Chef book. That was not a successful book, to be honest, for Tim Ferriss. And he talks about the 4 Hour Chef. That was off the back of 4 Hour Body, almost like a cookbook version of it. Mm-hmm. That wasn't a successful book, but it led into Tools of Titans, which is the next book that was very successful. So yeah, I think 4 Hour Body is a really good book. There's lots of, as you'd expect from Tim Ferriss, loads of knowledge packed in there. The Daniel Priestley's the oversubscribed, isn't it? So that one of the best things in there that I got out of it was he had this section, it was a chapter talking about optimum school class sizes, right? So private school, people pay to send the kids to private school because of the low class numbers, right? And he talks about these schools in the US where they were, the school would boast to say, our class numbers are 10 or 12, right, in the class. And all the parents thinking, I'll pay for my kids to go to that school so they can be in a class of 10 kids to the teacher, so they get, more time per head. But what Daniel was talking about was that's not the best. There's like an optimum between 16, I think it was 16 and 23 or 24 kids is about the optimum cohort to get the right balance in terms of cohort size for the learning. So he's sort of dispelling a few myths, and I picked that one up. I know it's a weird one, but I'd read that, obviously, my own kids, and thinking, yeah, that's great. So that was a good one. The other one, it is a good book, but I think there's a lot of things in there that get you in the mindset to think that you can have a absolute viral trending product. And I think that's a mistake. So thinking that if you follow that book and you're going to have a viral trending product is a big mistake. You'll probably get surprised and shocked. Most successes in business are not, how many viral trending products and startups do you think there are? Right, we've got Elon Musk stuff. We've got, obviously you've got things like Uber and, these various, you've got like Facebook. There's a handful of companies that have been absolutely viral and trending. The vast majority of companies we've never heard of but they're still successful.
Right.
And the way that they're successful is through consistency, right? So that Oversubscribed is a good book, but you've got to take some of it with a pinch of salt. Do not think that if you know, some of the things that he talks about in there, like creating a buzz around your products and things, they're great, but they do not replace consistently working towards achieving your goals day by day. You know, in my mind, one of the best, here's a good quote. I think it's Warren Buffett. He says, it's the cost, like the biggest thing that you can do for success is to stay in the game, right? Stay in no matter what, even through the hard times, right? Because the cost of context switching or changing or exiting to start something else, it resets, it's like compound interest. It resets you to zero again. So if you start a business, the best thing you can do is have resilience and keep going, keep going. And if you hit an obstacle, don't give up, pivot, but stay in, retain the skills that you've developed over time. So just be careful with that book, Oversubscribed.
Right.
It is a great book to help you. You cannot blindly follow that without retaining that consistency.
Yeah.
Because most businesses are built through grit and determination and consistency.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that staying in the game concept.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because a lot of things, like in business in general, a lot of results go to the top, and it's not linear. Like it's that whole Pareto curve, right? Like the majority of results go to the top, however many actors in it. And if you stop when you're still building the skills, you're not going to get the returns. Whereas if you just kept going, you might have actually become one of those higher players and gotten the results.
Yeah, there's one book I didn't put on the reading list. I probably need to put it on. Is Seth Godin's The Dip. You know Seth Godin, the marketing genius.
I've heard of him, I think.
Yeah, The Dip. Yeah, he's got a book called The Dip. It's quite a small book, and it's an easy concept to follow. But what he was sort of saying, Seth, he's talking about the same thing. When you first start off in business and you plow all your energy in and it feels like you're sinking, and you bottom out, you hit this kind of dip moment where you think, I've spent all my savings and all this time, and I'm 2 years in or 3 years in, still not got any results. And it's very lonely when you're down at, like any self-improvement or any starting a new business, when you start out, you're in a reasonable position. But it's like going on the hero's journey. You want to get from A to B. It's like crossing the chasm, right? When you first start out on that journey, there'll become a point where you'll slowly start to sort of like maybe lose friends and things and people. And when you're at the bottom of that dip, it feels incredibly lonely, right? Because no one's with you when it's not working. You're the one that's sunk 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years into it, and every penny you've got, and blood, sweat, and tears. And Seth was saying, if you just keep going that bit further, when most people give up, and I think this is a difference between, it isn't going viral, it's none of that shit.
Right.
It's who's got consistency as a discipline to push through them difficult times when it's really, really lonely at the bottom and you feel like nothing. And if you just keep going a little bit and then next minute it starts coming up, you start gathering momentum then. And it's certainly what my experience anyway with my own business.
Yeah.
So have a look at that one as well. That's a good book. It's only a small one. It's more of a concept that you can internalize.
All right, Andy, tell me a little bit about like going into YouTube and Instagram and like putting yourself out there more, personal branding. What's that like? What's the motivation behind that?
Yeah, so my YouTube and Instagram's only about 2-3 years old. So I used to hate social media, and I mean it, absolutely hated it with a passion. I still don't like it now, but it's a tool, right, to create a brand. So I never had anything, never had Facebook, absolutely nothing. The only thing I used to have was LinkedIn for my tech business because I was a consultant, tech. So I needed LinkedIn, and that was the only one. But if you go on LinkedIn, it's very sterile, you know what I mean? It's just business, business, business. and you know, everyone watches what they say and things like that. It's very, very straight-laced, right? So that's all I had. I just had LinkedIn. I remember when Facebook first came out, like I can't remember many years ago. I think I got it for about 6 months and I just, I don't like it. Just never used it again. So I've never used any social media. And then after I had gone through those rough times with the business and I turned it around, I really turned it around, landed some decent contracts, started to make some decent cash and getting some good success, and just, you know, restructuring my life, working them sort of like short out, a few 3 focus blocks at a time, gave me all this extra time back. So I started to develop a better lifestyle. I started to travel a bit more, and I had a lot of time on my hands. And at the time, my coach was saying, Andy, I think now that it's almost like you could see I was getting some results, and it was everywhere. Like I looked great in terms of like my fitness, completely done a full body transformation. I was getting results across the board, business, personal life. And he mentioned that maybe I should do something a bit different, like maybe like you know, you need to tell your story or write a book or something like this. And I was quite keen on the idea that the software business will eventually get sold. So the idea with the software business is you as a founder take it as far as you can, and then you've only got so much resource. So the idea is you get acquired, and then another company that's much bigger takes it even to the next level. And that's the natural life cycle of a software business. So my vision at the time was always that eventually this business will sell. And then I thought, all I want to do is just be an author and a podcaster or a YouTuber and just travel the world, make videos and be an author. So that was my vision. And it started prematurely just because I had all this time on my hands and I was making videos for the business. So I started literally making videos just all for fun. It's just a hobby. And the first videos we're making were just cooking videos, you know, like keto recipes. So I just started making all these cooking videos just as a bit of a laugh, just to learn how to create movies and edit videos, and just so I could start making them for business. So I started as a bit of a hobby. And then I think it was just a joke until last year, around about this time last year, I was talking to Joel and he said, you know what, Andy, if you really push some of this and get these videos going, we might be able to develop something. So I started to work with Joel last year, about this time last year. So all the big push, all them videos that I've made, they're all from this time last year. So I just started recording loads and loads of videos because I had the time on my hands. Yeah, I've created that. And the whole idea was to create books, products, which is now, I've got this other business now, the Goal Achievement Hub business, which I created with the journals. And there's other products in the background waiting to get launched. So the whole purpose of that channel is, to give people a few insights on how they can, you know, get more results, whether it be in business or fitness, but also as a lead magnet, really, to push out products into this new business. So eventually I'd look, you know, sell the tech business and just be an author.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about the journal. So what's like first, what is it? How is it different from, you know, something else that's out there, and what led you to create it? Nice.
I've got two colours. Yeah. So when I was doing the coaching with Scott, I started to use Tony Robbins RPM system, which is, there's like 3 or 4 books. They're quite big. I could go and get them. And there's quite a lot of them. It's quite cumbersome, but it's a very good system. So it's a very good system, but I was only using little bits of it, sort of 10% of it here and there, you know, for my own needs. And I found it fantastic. And then I got into journaling off a Tim Ferriss video. So I was using the 5-minute journal, which was great. and I was using the Tony Robbins stuff and a notepad, and I had all these books, like stack of books that I was using as part of my morning routine, which were good. But I found myself just using bits of each one, and I was even using the 5-minute journal how I want to use it, which is to do the 3 things a day. Now that it's a gratitude journal, so it's not really designed for that. And then I started to explore that there was other sort of more like business planner products out there. And I had a look at a few of them, and even they weren't working the way I wanted them to work. And I started to help other people, like a couple of guys, one guy who lives in the States who wanted to create a business, another guy here, a few various different people, a girl who wanted to change her job. So I started to help them, you know, just as a favour, to try and help them change their life and achieve the goals. So it's almost like doing a bit of coaching. And I tried to explain, oh, get this RPM system and get this journal. And because I was using it in not the way it was designed to be used, and there was flipping between all these different books, it just wasn't translating, and I found it like very difficult to explain it. So I then put it into Excel. So I was sharing Excel with them. They said, we'll do it on Excel. And even that was too confusing. So basically I was getting fed up of walking around with all these books. So I just condensed everything that I need into one volume. So on my YouTube channel, everything that I talk about on the YouTube channel, everything that I've achieved that I do on a daily basis to, you know, start businesses and get whatever success I want, is all actually contained in this product. So if you can't, you know, it's like, I can't be a coach. I've no time. Well, I've got time, but I don't want to be a coach, because one of my philosophies in business is scalability. I think you need to leverage what you have, and selling your time for money, it's like the lowest form of leverage. You can't improve on it. This is the reason why I started a software business. I realized as a consultant, even though I could earn good money, so much per hour or whatever, it's non-scalable. You can't improve on that. So I realized I can't be a coach, even if I could charge a premium price to be a coach. What can I do? I can put it into a product and sell the product. So the idea is you buy the journal, you listen to the videos, and it's like having a digital coach for a lot less money. So yeah, it's a new product. We're just launching it. It's only been a few weeks. But yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about, because in terms of journaling, I'm probably like the most passionate journaler out there. So Joel's got one. He's using it. You need to get yourself one. I'll send you one out, by the way, Will.
Oh, I would love that. I was looking before. That would be amazing. I'd be happy to use it and yeah, see what it can do for me.
Yeah, sure.
What's something that you're currently struggling with?
Okay, that's a bit of a touchy point. It's
a hard question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So what am I currently struggling with? Right. Okay. So in the journal, there's like 7 areas of life, right? I pretty much box them all off. Yeah, you can always improve on them. So I spent many years chasing external things, like got to have a business, got to get this, got to get that, got to get the body, You can chase as much external things as you want. The things that I'm currently working on, number 1, mindfulness, meditation. So I just did meditation coaching before. So I have like a 1-to-1 meditation coach twice a week, and I meditate every day. Becoming more mindful is a huge game changer. It's like the next level. You can achieve success. You know, you can get the money, you can get the girl, you can get the car, you can get the business. And it's like, now what? You can always get more stuff. Going above that by being more conscious is the next level. So that's one area that I'm really focused on. I'm trying to get more. It's almost like it kills your need for any sort of validation whatsoever. So in terms of, I don't have an addictive personality. So, you know, I don't need to drink or anything like this. I do drink, but like maybe 1 or 2, but I don't like need it. I don't, you know, so I don't have any issues there. The only issue that I sort of struggle with, how can I say this politely? Women, right? So I'm In terms of women, my dating habits have not been the... I'm trying to become a better person, let's put it that way. And a lot of it for me is resisting women in terms of trying to go a bit of time without, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I spent a lot of time, you know, non-serious dating. And I think you can get a bit addicted to it, like a validation addiction to that lifestyle. Like, I've done a lot of traveling, dating overseas, all this. It's very addictive and very seductive. It's a great lifestyle, but eventually you get fed up of it, and you know, you can only spin plates for so long before you get fed up, and then you start to look for something a bit more meaningful. So obviously the meditation and becoming more conscious and stopping, because it's all external, that, you know, dating is still an external thing. You got the girl. Yeah, pretty much every area of my life is boxed off, apart from, I would say, healthy dating habits. So that's what I'm working on at the minute.
It's a challenging one. It's certainly challenging.
It is, yeah. Having the discipline to say no and resist
Mm-hmm.
is a bit of a superpower.
Yeah, being able to
You
just
know.
like make smart decisions and not just follow every bodily impulse. Definitely.
Yes, I think
That's a
it's
challenge.
like dating with intent,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because there's no shortage of people out there that will spend time with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's lots of people, and like you can quickly fall into a position where you start dating people that you have no intention of any long-term plans with, and it's just a bit of fun, and that sounds great. And you know, if you're in that sort of phase of your life, I think that's really good. That's certainly where I was in my 20s. I was like, you know, it's just fun. I think you become tired of it at some point,
Right.
and you know, juggling that sort of life is that's something I'm working on at the minute. So yeah, I've got a lot of business goals at the minute to focus on.
Yeah. So
I'm enjoying that.
to kind of branch off of that, what does your dream life look like?
Wow, what does my dream life look like? Probably my identity. So what's my identity? Oh yeah, to give value in the products and services that I do, you know, within engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I want that business to be successful and live its natural life. The multi-generational family thing is mega. I actually want more kids. Lots of kids, yeah. And to do all that whilst being at peace. Ultimate life would be always living life on my terms. Nice financial independence, you know, have things going.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I like building scalable businesses that you can leverage media and technology. Software businesses, selling software licenses, selling products, e-commerce. Get some financial independence that way. Great health. I mean, I love things like biohacking. And then in terms of personal relationships, I'm really like open to this. So, you know, it'd be nice to have like one solid connection, which you find every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Have that loving with that attachment, you know.
Right.
So I think that, and then I'd love to possibly have another base overseas as well. Yeah. So I do a lot of travel. I've got my eye on a couple of locations where I'd love to have another base and spend some time there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that as well. So yeah.
Awesome.
But we all want the idea that we have this kind of like conscious free will. You know, it's not really true, is it? Because if we had free will, we would just do whatever the hell we wanted, and you know, it's always within the bounds of a society. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what's acceptable to a society. But yeah, living life on your terms is a big part of it. I've been living like that for the last 3 years, but I feel like I've got to get my head down at the minute with this new business and a few other things. I'm really knuckling down at the minute. Not traveling so much, focusing on business, focusing on my goals, giving up dating at the minute. Yeah, for that, you know, that's what I'm trying to do, yeah.
All right, Andy
To
Holt.
become a better human.
Yes, better human. Andy Holt, tell people where they can find out more about you.
find out more about me. So if you go to, you'll find me on Instagram, obviously, Andy Holt. I think it's Andy Holt _AZL or AZL if you're American. Or you can go to my website, andyholt.co.uk, and everything's on there. I'm also on LinkedIn as well, but everything's from my website. YouTube, just my name again, Andy Holt, but it might be Andy M. Holt as well there. We've also got the Goal Achievement Hub website. If you go on LinkedIn and find me, you'll see my tech business, which is there too. But yeah, if you just hop on over to andyholt.co.uk,
Awesome.
Pretty much all my links are from there.
Yeah, we'll make sure to link everything in, everywhere that this gets posted. So I appreciate you for coming on, man. This has been a really cool conversation. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, cheers. Well, thanks for inviting me on. It's been fun.
Bye, everybody.